Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to What's Better, Raw or Smackdown? Um, and this is episode 12. So, obviously, I'm now gonna finally be doing this week's Raw and Smackdown. I missed it because I was catching up on the other stuff. Um, and I'm actually looking forward to it because this is gonna be the first Raw and Smackdown of the year, and this is kind of gonna, either we're gonna kick it off with a bang or we're gonna kick it off with a bang, but in a bad way. That was kind of a bad cheesy line, but either gonna kick it off in a bang or we're gonna kick it off in a I should have said that actually. Um and I'm gonna talk about what both Raw and SmackDown. Obviously SmackDown I'm gonna have to wait for because it's Tuesday, January 3rd, 12:29 a.m. and SmackDown hasn't aired yet, but Raw has aired, so I'm gonna watch Raw, and as it goes to commercial and stuff, or after each match and segment, I'll come on here and kind of give my thoughts on it. So we have, but we have a very promising Raw, it looks like. We have a last man standing match between Sami Zayn and Braun Strowman that I'm looking forward to. I just hope Sami Zayn doesn't get, like, squashed. I don't expect him to win, but I just hope he doesn't get, like, destroyed. We're going to have to wait and see. And we're going to have the return of Goldberg. This is going to be the first time we've seen Goldberg since since he announced he was going to be in the Royal Rumble match. We're going to see what he has to say about it, and I can't wait to see about that. And overall, I just, I want to kind of look into the future and look into a positive landscape because I think we could have a really good year of wrestling, Well, we're going to have to wait and see. So now that I've talked about it, let's get to the Raw review. Okay, a little change of plans. So apparently, for some odd reason, my Raw wasn't on the DVO, so I don't know what happened. I don't know if it got deleted, if it didn't record, but I don't think that's the case, so I don't know what happened. So I'm gonna watch it off Daily Motion, and it's 3 parts to it. And either what's gonna happen is I'm gonna end up because I did this with SmackDown last week. I will watch all 3 parts all at once and just review the show as a whole, or I'm gonna probably end up watching all 3 parts separately and just have all 3 parts be broken down separately. So whatever one happens, happens. So enjoy the show. Enjoy the review. Alright, so I just finished Raw. I didn't think it was going to take me this long because SmackDown's about to start. What happened was, it wasn't recorded on the DVR like I said before, so then I was watching it on Daily Motion, and my internet wasn't really functioning properly. It was getting really late. It was like 2 in the morning, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna wait for this to be over. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'll get up at 9 and watch it. Well, that didn't happen because I didn't get up till 1, and then I ended up going out to eat and all that stuff. So I just kind of didn't really pan out the way I wanted it to. However, but I did finish the show. I am going to have to miss a little bit of SmackDown, but I got to record it on the DVO, so that's good. So I'm just going to kind of run through Raw. So we had Corey Graves, Michael Cole, and Byron Saxton on commentary, and Mick Foley comes out, and he talks about how he's made a lot of New Year's resolutions that and how 2017 is going to be a great year for Raw. He says that he's rocking a new holiday look now. He shaved his beard and everything. And Mick Foley then says that, that he's also going to learn to write down the name of the city that he's in since he messed it up last week. And, and he talks about the WWE Universal Championship match a little bit. And then Jericho come out, and they pretty much say that it's not fair that Jericho has to be locked up in his... that's not what they say. They talk about how Mick Foley is making unfair decisions as Raw general manager, like making Kevin Owens face Roman Reigns when he already beat him at roadblock end of the line, making Chris Jericho hang above the ring, and he had like a funny line where he used his catchphrase, "I'm going to be locked in the cage. And I'm really afraid, man," something like that. I forget exactly what the catchphrase was. And he said that you're not going to treat us like that in 2017. And then Stephanie McMahon comes out and she says that it's completely fair, Mick Foley's decision. She just wishes that he had consulted with her about it. And then Mick Foley says, well, I kind of wish you would have consulted with me before you made the Sami Zayn Braun Strowman match. And then Jericho says, then Kevin Owens is like, who cares? You guys have issues, but we want something done. We want fairness or something. And then Stephanie McMahon says, well, we're going to have fairness because tonight Roman Reigns is going to defend the United States title against Chris Jericho. And if Roman Reigns gets himself counted out or disqualified, he loses the championship. And then they start whispering to each other, and they say, and Jericho say that they love that idea. But Kevin Owens makes the suggestion that Seth Rollins should be banned from ringside because he loves to get involved anytime Roman Reigns is in a match, even though it's pretty much the other way around. So Mick Foley says, well, why don't we ban Chris Jericho from ringside? Which didn't really make any sense since Chris Jericho's in the match. I don't know if he messed up here or whatever. But then Seth McMahon says, everybody starts arguing. Stephanie McMahon tells everyone to shut up. We're going. She cuts this great promo about how SmackDown beat Raw in the ratings, and she says we want to prove that Raw is where the land of opportunity is, and we want to prove that Raw is the better brand than SmackDown. So tonight we're gonna have a match between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, and whoever loses is banned from ringside from the United States title match. And I forgot to mention, too, before this, Mick Foley had also made the first edition of the Kevin Owens show, and his special guest was going to be Goldberg, which I was looking forward to. And then, but yeah, Stephanie McMahon just tells everyone to get their act together and tells Owens that his match with Rollins is right now. So overall, I really enjoyed this opening segment. I thought it was good. I thought Jericho was great. Mick Foley was great. I thought Stephanie McMahon was pretty good out there, especially when she started talking about the stuff with SmackDown. So I thought that was really good. So I thought it was good. And then we had the first match. It was Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins, where the loser is banned from ringside in the United States title match. Overall, this was a good match. Nothing we haven't seen before, though, but a good match. Rollins hits two crossbodies on the outside. He hits the blockbuster from the top rope, and then Owen starts taking over the match. He hits a DDT on Rollins, and he pretty much just dominates Rollins for a while, and then Rollins starts to make a comeback, and then they both start fighting on the outside, and eventually Owens gets himself disqualified by hitting Rollins with the ring bell, so Owens loses by disqualification, so Seth Rollins wins the match, so that means Owens is banned from ringside in the U.S. title match. Then afterwards, Owens tries to attack Rollins, but Rollins ends up fighting him off with the Enzuigiri. He goes for the pedigree, but Owens escapes. And that was really it. I really wasn't. I thought the match was fine. I just didn't really care for the finish. I wish it could have been like a clean, decisive finish. I would have had Owens go over personally. But I can understand why they didn't do that because then it wouldn't. It takes away Jericho's greatest weapon in the U.S. title match. And it's not like Rollins interfered anyways. I mean, he wasn't even out ringside at all. This was the only time we really saw Seth Rollins. Like I said, I think. Right now, he's not really going to be doing much until Triple H comes back, which kind of sucks for him. But it just feels like Rollins is just kind of in an inconsequential role right now. Then we had the next match. It was Cesaro versus Carl Anderson with Luke Gallows ringside, and Sheamus was on commentary for this match. Overall, I thought this was actually a pretty good match. Cesaro looked pretty strong out there. Carl Anderson looked pretty strong. Carl Anderson ended up getting a lot of offense in, and they had a good back and forth match. And eventually Gallows keeps interfering in the match, so Sheamus gets off commentary, comes down ringside, so that way Gallows won't interfere anymore. And eventually Cesaro's about to hit the superplex off the top, and Gallows gets on the apron, but then Sheamus pulls him down, but then Gallows, while he's being pulled down, ends up pulling the ropes, so Cesaro falls off and ends up landing on the ropes, and then Carl Anderson hits a blockbuster for the win. And I'm fine with Carl Anderson going over just because I think this is leading to a tag title match in the future between Cesaro and Sheamus versus Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. And I'm fine with him going over here. I thought it was fine. So I thought this match was good. And then we had a last man standing match. Sami Zayn versus Braun Strowman. It's really a squash. I mean, it wasn't a complete squash, but it was pretty much a dissection of Sami Zayn. He got some offense in, though. Like, the first He goes outside the ring and he pulls out a kendo stick from the timekeeper's area, starts wailing on Strowman, and he does this for a while. Where Strowman he'll run away from Strowman. Strowman will go to attack him, but he'll just keep tossing kendo sticks at him. He goes for his moonsault off the barricade, but Strowman ends up catching him and tosses him into the barricade. And then Strowman just dominates him for a while, and he ends up taking him all the way to the announcer's table and just ends up clubbing him right in the chest. And they fight backstage. Sami Zayn tries to throw a crate at him, but he ends up missing. And Strowman tosses Zayn right onto a. I think actually Sami Zayn grabbed a lead pipe, tried to hit him with it, but Strowman took it out of his hand. He tosses Zayn right onto a crate, and there was another crate, one of those, an equipment box. He tries to toss it at Zayn, but Zayn ends up moving out of the way. And then Zayn ends up grabbing a chair and just starts wailing Strowman with the chair a ton of times. And eventually he hits a crossbody off the stage, and drive Strowman through 2 tables. And Strowman ends up getting up at 5, which was pretty impressive. And then afterwards, Zayn continues to try to hit him with the chair. Strowman takes the chair and just tosses Zayn halfway all the way to almost the ringside. And after this, he just pretty much kills Zayn. He ends up hitting a power slam on the floor. Zayn continues to get up, and then Strowman just continues to beat the crap out of Zayn and hits a second power slam on the floor. And this time, Braun Strowman ends up getting the victory. Sami Zayn doesn't beat the 10 count, and Braun Strowman wins. And I'm really not a huge fan of this, just because I get the storyline they were trying to tell, where Sami Zayn keeps trying to stay down, but Braun Strowman was just too much for him. What I don't like about it, though, is that Sami Zayn is I've talked about this in the past. Sami Zayn could easily be WWE Universal Champion. He has a ton of talent. He's great on the mic. I think he's great in the ring. And he has that charisma. And he's like that underdog. But yet they keep having him get squashed. I completely saw this coming a mile away when he got into this feud with Braun Strowman to begin with. And you could say he came out looking good just because he kept getting up. But he pretty much got squashed by Braun Strowman. He really didn't knock him off his feet until he did the crossbody through the stage. Now, the way they could make Sami Zayn look good coming out of this is obviously he's not going to be on Raw next week just because he was battered and bruised afterwards. So what I think is going to happen is, because afterwards he got taken out in the stretcher, but then Strowman knocked him off the stretcher, and he ended up just slamming him right into the barricade, and then he got stretchered out of the match. I think I could see Sami Zayn coming back maybe in a couple of weeks, and Mick Foley saying, "You looked really good out there. You opened up a lot of WWE Universe with your heart and determination, so I'm going to put you in the Rumble match." And you could put him in maybe as and Sami Zayn could say, "All right, well, I want to be number 1 in the Royal Rumble match." And then Mick Foley's "Okay." And then Sami Zayn lasts in the Rumble. He doesn't win the Rumble, but he lasts a pretty good amount of time. And then you could have Sami Zayn have a big match at WrestleMania where he has to finally overcomes the odds and wins his big match, whether it's for the U.S. title, the Cruiserweight title, whatever. And you could do something like that, but I just don't personally think that's going to happen. I think Sami Zayn's going to fade away into obscurity now. It just kind of sucks for him. I think, I don't think you can necessarily deny Sami Zayn, as I think they will push him, but they won't, push him like they care about him just to kind of get the fans to shut up is kind of the push that he'll get. But it just kind of sucks that he got squashed here. I get you want to make Braun Strowman look like a monster too, so you kind of booked into a corner. You can't have Sami Zayn get too much offense in, but I just kind of wish it wouldn't have to be at the expense of Sami Zayn getting squashed. And then Jack Gallagher's backstage, and he's showing the New Day how to use their swords, I think, which or the umbrellas as swords, and I thought it was a pretty funny segment. And the New Day said, "We're gonna go make our New Year's resolutions." So then we get the New Day's resolutions, and they talk about how New Day they had some highs, they had some lows, but they ended up coming out as the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history. And they said that they have some New Year's resolutions. They announced they want to be in the Royal Rumble match, which I thought they announced, but if you look up online, they're actually not announced for the Rumble, but I expect them to be in the Rumble match. And then Titus O'Neil interrupts him out of nowhere, and he says, "Oh, New Day, don't you dare be sour, and brace yourself for the Titus brand." And pretty much he wants to be in the New Day. He tries to he uses this as an audition for him to get into the New Day. He says, "You guys could use a nice 4th member, because I got style. Um, because I have great dance move and I can play a musical instrument, and he tries to play Francesca Turbo, but Xavier Woods says, no, this is my girl, you don't touch my girl. And Titus O'Neil says, well, I got a musical instrument, and he blows the whistle, and he says that I would look great on the cereal box, no offense to you guys. Well, maybe to you, Biggie. And then the New Day say, well, no, honey, Xavier Woods says, honey, no offense, but if we saw you in the face of Bootios, everybody would call the police. Everyone would be scared. You'd scare the children. So I thought that was hilarious. And he even says, I know you can blow. So I thought that was hilarious too. So they deny him to join the New Day, and Titus O'Neil says, well, that says a lot coming from the weakest link. So then Xavier Woods challenges him to a match to see if he is the weakest link, and then Titus O'Neil takes a cheap shot and accepts his challenge. And overall, they had a fine match. I thought it was pretty good. Xavier Woods ends up winning with a roll up, and that was good. The New Day, come out looking strong, and afterwards, that was it. The New Day, Xavier Woods kind of flees, and the New Day win. I thought the segment with Titus O'Neil was great. I thought Titus O'Neil looked really good out there. And this shows that he does have some talent there. I just kind of wish, that they would. I hope now that it's 2017, maybe they'll rectify their mistake and start using him better. And him joining the New Day, I don't think anybody would personally mind that. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with the New Day. I expect the New Day to break up at some point this year, because it's kind of run its course. I expect them to break up going into maybe in a Mania season where it'll lead to a triple threat match with all three members. Or they can just have like a mutual breakup. I kind of would like them to have a mutual breakup, but if they were going to turn somebody heel to break them up, I would choose Big E. Just because he would make the most sense. He could say, I'm a nice big dominant monster and I have to humiliate myself every week for you guys. So it's a thought, but we have to wait and see. And then Stephanie McMahon's backstage, and Bayley comes up, and Stephanie McMahon says, I know I beat Charlotte, but last week, but I know you had to erase the loss, which I understand, but why did you make Dana Brooke the guest referee last week? And Stephanie McMahon says, well, Charlotte has a bunch of lawyers, so I couldn't really go against it, but since it's just us having girl talk, Stephanie McMahon says that I didn't want you on Raw. I don't, but Mick Foley fought for you to get you here, so you are here. But Charlotte's the real face of the women's division. She has flair. It comes from a family, and you don't look the part. You look like all these people, and you're just Bayley. And Bayley says, well, I understand you feel that way, but just being Bayley is okay with me. So Stephanie McMahon says, well, you're persistent, and I like that. And she says, I'm going to give you a chance to prove yourself when tonight you have a #1 contenders match, and to face, and the winner of that match will face Charlotte for the WWE Raw Women's Championship at the Royal Rumble. And she says that her opponent's going to be Nia Jax. And then Bayley leaves, and then Stephanie McMahon starts saying, hey, we want some Bayley. And she's like, stupid son. So I thought overall this was a good backstage segment. This was set up the match between Nia. And I think they're setting up, where Bayley's that underdog, where nobody wants her to succeed. So, well, not that no one wants her to succeed, but no one thinks that she can succeed because she's not, she doesn't look like everybody else. And I think that's a good storyline. And then Cedric Alexander and Alicia Fox are backstage, and Noam Dar apologizes to Cedric Alexander, and then Cedric Alexander says thanks, but Alicia's the one you should apologize to, and I think he does apologize, but he's being a huge asshole about it. So then he runs off, and that was really it. Like I said, I don't care about the storyline. And then next match was Cedric Alexander with Alicia Fox versus Drew Gulak with Tony Nese. Since it was a cruiserweight match, Austin Aries took Byron Saxton's place on commentary. And I really don't remember this match that much. I remember it was good. I remember Drew Gulak won. I remember somehow it was through interference by Alicia Fox. But I don't remember what the interference was. So I think where I see this going is I see Cedric Alexander either turning heel out of this and just snapping. Well, I see Alicia Fox leaving Cedric, this is what's probably going to happen, leaving Cedric Alexander for Noam Dar, and Cedric Alexander keeps losing, which I see happening, which would suck. Cedric Alexander just is so much talented than this. He has a great showing in the Cruiserweight Classics, and he's diminished to this storyline. It just kind of sucks for him. And then we had next match was a United States Championship match. United States Champion Roman Reigns versus Chris Jericho, where if Roman Reigns gets himself counted out or disqualified, he will lose the United States title. And Kevin Owens is banned from ringside. This actually was a pretty good match. I thought they had a better matchup a few weeks ago for the title. And Chris Jericho ends up hitting the Jericho-like dropkick from the apron. And then Roman Reigns goes for the drive-by dropkick. But then Jericho moves out of the way, and Reigns ends up landing face first into the steel post. And Reigns almost gets counted out, but he's able to get back in the ring. Jericho gets Reigns in the walls of Jericho, but he makes it to the ropes. And then Jericho unties the turnbuckle. And the referee sees this, so he goes to fix it. And then Jericho grabs the U.S. title, tosses it to Reigns, and Reigns catches it. And Jericho falls down, and he tries to pretend like Reigns hit him with the title. And the referee sees it, but it backfires. The referee doesn't call the match off or anything, and Jericho uses this distraction to and hits the code breaker and almost gets the victory, but Reigns kicks out. And then Jericho goes to charge at the turnbuckle, and he hits the exposed turnbuckle. Reigns hits him with a spear for the win, and Roman Reigns retains his U.S. title. I thought the match was fine, but it wasn't anything like special. I think they've had better matchups in the past, but the match here was fine. And then we had the Brian Kendrick versus T.J. Perkins. Austin Aries was back on commentary for this match. Okay match. They've definitely had better matches. T.J. Perkins wins with the knee bar by making Kendrick tap out. So, you know, it makes sense because T.J. Perkins is kind of feuding with Neville right now, which they announced that it's going to be Neville versus Perkins on 205 Live, which I'll be watching. So I thought it was okay. And then we had the makeover of Emma to Emmalina video package. And it has Emma talking, saying, you guys have wanted me, but you're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. I really don't want to see... I've talked about it in the past what I think of Emmalina. I think it's stupid. And then the next match, it was a handicap match. Rusev and Jinder Mahal with Lana versus Big Cass with Enzo Amore. Big Cass and Enzo Amore do their stick, and Big Cass says, even though Enzo is hurt, I still want to fight both of you in a handicap match. And Big Cass does the best he can to fight him off until Jinder Mahal tries to attack him in the wheelchair. Big Cass chases Jinder off. And then Rusev goes for the kick. Cass counters it, and then he knocks Jinder off the apron. And Rusev hits the kick on Big Cass and gets the victory. So Rusev and Jinder Mahal win. It really wasn't anything special. It was just an average match. Then we had a Raw Women's Championship #1 Contenders match. Bayley versus Nia Jax with Charlotte Flair on commentary. Pretty much the whole match was Nia Jax destroying Bayley throughout the entire match, and then she goes for a leg drop off the second rope, and then Sasha Banks returns. This is the first time we had seen her since Nia Jax took her out, and Bayley hits the Bayley to belly from the top rope, gets the victory, and she's the #1 contender. So now in Royal Rumble, it's going to be Charlotte Flair versus Bayley for the Raw Women's title, and it was just, you know, an average stuff. And then we had the main event segment on the show. It was the Kevin Owens show with Goldberg as a special guest. And JRKO come out. And Kevin Owens announces the first edition. Said, even though we haven't had the greatest night where I lost my match with Seth Rollins and you lost your U.S. title match, but we're main evented Raw once again together. And he says, now let's introduce my guest. This guest has, dominated the Attitude Era. And he gets a thunderous ovation when he's just standing in the ring, and he makes believe like he's going to introduce Goldberg, but instead he introduces Chris Jericho, and Jericho says, you're going to cheer Goldberg over me? Well, you know what, Tampa Bay? You just made the list. And he puts him on the list. I thought that was awesome. And then they just kind of talk about stuff, and then Kevin Owens... Jericho makes an announcement saying, I'm going to make a... I'm just going to mute the TV. Just give me a second. Because the TV is going to get really loud in a second. But then they make an announcement, because Smackdown's actually on right now. Let me just make sure it's not going to come on. But anyhow, then Jericho makes an announcement that he is going to be in the Royal Rumble match. So he's now officially in the Rumble. But then Owens is like, well, I don't want to face you at WrestleMania because I don't want to face my best friends. But Jericho says this is actually smart because whoever walks out of WrestleMania as the champion will both be the champions. But Owens is like, well, I don't want to face my best friend. So I guess they're playing it up because I don't know exactly how the Rumble is going to work this year, but it looks like if a guy from Raw wins it, he goes after the Universal title, and if a guy from SmackDown wins it, he goes after the WWE World Championship. So I don't mind that they're doing it like that. That's how they used to do it when they had the brand split the first time. And then Goldberg comes out, and Owens welcomes him to the show and welcomes him to take a seat. And Goldberg tosses the chair, takes his jacket off, and Jericho says, "You don't do this. You don't. You know what happens to people that disrespect Jericho and disrespect and toss furniture around like a wild animal." And then Goldberg says, "Spear." He looks at Jericho and says, "Spear," and he looks at Owens and he says, "Jackhammer." And then Owens is like, "Jackhammer, is that supposed to intimidate me, huh? You taking off your jacket, throwing my furniture around?" And then Owens says, "You know what?" And he tosses his furniture around. He says, "Anybody can do that." And they start exchanging words with each other like they're going to lay each other out. I thought Owens looked pretty strong standing up to Goldberg like this. And then Paul Heyman comes out. And he says that at the Royal Rumble, he says he makes believe like Brock Lesnar is there. But he's like, my client Brock Lesnar is not here tonight. And he says that at the Royal Rumble, Brock Lesnar is going to eat, sleep, eliminate, repeat, and he continues to say this. And then Goldberg says that is not going to happen because I'm going to win the Royal Rumble, and whether it's Kevin Owens or Roman Reigns, we have a date at WrestleMania. And then Roman Reigns comes out and says and tells Jericho that they're not winning anything at WrestleMania. And as for you, and then he has a face-off with Goldberg, which was awesome. And then Braun Strowman comes out and says that he's going to be the one that wins the Royal Rumble match. And actually, when he came out, Paul Heyman was in like the fetal position, which I thought was funny. And then he takes the mic from Paul Heyman, which was funny. And then Strowman goes to get in the ring. Reigns and Goldberg continue their face-off. Jericho get out of the ring. And then Reigns and Goldberg double spear Braun Strowman. And then Reigns leaves the ring and Goldberg celebrates. And they play his music and everything. And overall, I thought this segment was awesome. You set up like a bunch of potential matches you could have for the Royal Rumble. Like for the Universal title at WrestleMania, you could be having... obviously, you built up Owens versus Reigns for the Universal title at the Rumble. That was good. You could possibly have Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho for the Universal title, which I loved. Which I hope they do that match. You could possibly have Kevin Owens versus Goldberg for the Universal Championship. You could possibly have even Roman Reigns versus Goldberg for the WWE Universal Championship, because they really set up like they could be doing that match at WrestleMania. And you set up the fact that maybe Braun Strowman could be facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Goldberg could be facing Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. Obviously, you set up Brock Lesnar and hyping up his return at some point. So, overall, this was a great segment. And it makes me wonder who is going to win the Rumble. Because you really don't know who's necessarily going to win it. At least last year, you had a feeling that Triple H was going to win it. So I like this. And overall, I thought Raw was actually a pretty good show. It wasn't like a great show. There was a lot of stuff that I could care less about. But I liked the New Day's resolutions. I thought that was good. I thought Owens and Rollins had a good match up until the finish. I thought Cesaro and Carl Anderson had a good match. I thought the opening promo was good. I thought the U.S. title match was pretty good on this show. And the build-up of Bayley and Charlotte, I am liking that. And the main event just really made this show for me. So I thought Raw was a pretty good show. I actually enjoyed it. It definitely has its boring moments, like with the cruiserweights on this show. The Sami Zayn, Braun Strowman last man standing match isn't as good either. But overall, I thought Raw was a pretty good show. And now we have to see if it can outdo SmackDown, because they have a lot to live up to. Because on SmackDown, which I'm about to watch, I'm just going to watch SmackDown all at once. We have... an Intercontinental Championship match between The Miz and Dean Ambrose on this show. And we're going to have the contract signing for the WWE World Championship match between WWE World Champion, AJ Styles and John Cena. So SmackDown looks like it could be a good show. But for the first Raw of the year, I thought this was good. You set up the Rumble match. You set up possible WrestleMania matches, and you did a lot of good stuff on Raw. Like I said, not a perfect show, but I thought overall it was a pretty good show. Alright, sorry this video is going up late, but I'm going to tell you what happened. For some odd reason, when I was recording SmackDown, the channel that I was watching off of was just completely blank, and I had trouble getting it going, so then I finally did get it going, and I got busy doing other things. I just made a video on my Wrestling Fortune 44 channel, which I think you should totally check out, and I also was watching WWE 205 Live, so other shit got in the way. So, I am now going to be covering SmackDown, though. We had Tom Phillip. Well, this episode aired on January 3rd, 2017. So I think I messed up when Raw aired. Raw actually aired January 2nd, 2017. I just messed up on the date. We had Tom Phillips, JBL, Mauro Ranallo, and David Otunga on commentary. And we had a promo segment between The Miz and Maurice. And The Miz says that he is demanding an apology. He said that ever since the holiday season, actually, that he's been in a forgiving mood. So he wants an apology right now from Renee Young, and he says that SmackDown will not continue until Renee Young comes out and apologizes. Then Dean Ambrose comes out and chases The Miz off, and he tries to get to him, but Maurice is standing in his way, and Maurice slaps him in the face. And then afterwards, Dean Ambrose grabs the mic and says, "Hey Miz, that is probably the hardest hit I'm going to have tonight." So I thought that was good. And then the next match we had, it was, so yeah, like I said, I thought this was a good segment and a good way to set up the Intercontinental Championship match. And then the next match, it was Baron Corbin versus Dolph Ziggler. And this was actually a pretty good matchup here. Both guys worked really hard out there. But eventually, Baron Corbin wins with the end of days. And I thought overall it was a good match. And it really could have gone either way. And afterwards, Baron Corbin grabs a steel chair, and he's about to hit Dolph Ziggler with it when Kalisto comes out, who's old rivals with Baron Corbin, and makes the save. And afterwards, Dolph Ziggler super kicks. Dolph Ziggler and Kalisto are just standing together, and Dolph Ziggler super kicks Kalisto. So Dolph Ziggler finally turned heel. I was actually kind of happy about this because I've kind of wanted the Dolph Ziggler to turn heel because I still liked him as a babyface, but I thought he was going to get kind of bland, and it makes sense for him to turn heel. He keeps getting these opportunities and coming up short. So I'm happy that Dolph Ziggler is actually going to turn heel. I'm actually fine with this. So that was good. But yeah, so Dolph Ziggler is now a heel, and I guess they're going to do a Dolph Ziggler-Kalisto feud. So I guess that's okay, I don't know. And then Carmella's backstage, and James Ellsworth comes up, and he's really nervous to talk to her. But eventually he gives her one of his t-shirts, and Carmella says, "Why don't you accompany me out to my match tonight?" So like I said, I'm not really a fan of this, but I'm happy James Ellsworth is out of the main event scene. So that's a positive right there. And then we had a backstage segment between Apollo Crews, Mojo Rawley, and Rhino. And Dolph Ziggler comes storming in, and Apollo Crews wants to know what all that was about. He tells him to calm down, and Dolph Ziggler tells him to mind his own business. And Apollo Crews says, no, he's not going to mind his own business because Kalisto's his friend, and you attacked him. And then afterwards, Dolph Ziggler attacks Apollo Crews, and Mojo Rawley and Rhino have to pull him off. So obviously, I think they're going to set up some sort of feud between Apollo Crews and Dolph Ziggler, which I would like to see. And like I said, I like the fact that Dolph Ziggler is now a heel. I think it makes it really interesting. And then the next match, it was Becky Lynch versus La Luchadora. This match sucked. I really didn't care about it. Becky Lynch just pretty much dominates the whole match and beats La Luchadora with a disarmer. But earlier in the match, La Luchadora had gone underneath the ring, and a different La Luchadora had popped out, and Becky Lynch takes her mask off. And we find out that it's Alexa Bliss. So I guess they're going to continue the feud between Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch. And afterwards, the real La Luchadora pops out. Well, we think it's the real La Luchadora. And Bliss and La Luchadora attack Becky Lynch. And Alexa Bliss lays her out with a DDT. So I don't know who this La Luchadora is. I don't really like this storyline. I'm kind of interested to see who it is, but I thought this week it was just kind of lame. The multiple La Luchadora things, I thought that was just lame. I thought it was dumb. And then we had the WWE Championship contract signed. I guess they're kind of called the WWE title, the WWE Championship. Lately, they've been calling it the WWE World Championship. So, I like I like the name change. And Daniel Bryan hosts the thing, and it's between WWE Champion AJ Styles and John Cena. And AJ Styles is upset, saying he says that Cena's the luckiest guy right now because he asked Daniel Bryan, why does John Cena get a title match if he's been off TV for 4 months? And he also says, well, he's been on Smackdown wrestling every week. And Daniel Bryan then says, well, I can understand your frustration. But you got to understand that last week SmackDown finally beat Raw in the ratings. And that was all because of the return of John Cena and the title match that you had on the show. And we wanted to give the interest with the WWE Championship match. So we wanted to have the best match we could possibly have, and this was the best match we could have. And then Daniel Bryan says, best of luck to you both. And AJ Styles says, luckily I agree with him because AJ Styles is the best thing that they could have. And then afterwards, AJ Styles I thought was great here. He talks about how a year, months ago, Cena, you were actually in my position, where you had to say that it was a must-win for me to prove that I belonged in WWE. But now the shoe's on the other foot because now you have to beat me to prove that you belong in WWE. And then Cena goes to talk and he says that he respects AJ Styles. But then Styles cuts him off and says, I don't want to hear any of that crap. And he talks about how you talked about how The Rock was a part-time and you said that you were completely wrong and stupid to say that, but you were actually right. And now you're in the same position as The Rock. He talks about how Cena's he admits that Cena has been great for his time, but the key word is has been, because now Styles is taking John Cena's position as the face of the company. And he says that he's going to beat John Cena just like he always has, and he signs the contract, and then John Cena starts to talk. And he says that I had respect for you, but you just lost all my respect, and you just made the biggest mistake of your life. And he talks about how people are saying a lot of stuff about John Cena, about he pretty much first he talks about how AJ Styles is a chump, and he thinks that he has no balls. But he pretty much saying to people, he said that everything you've been saying, you say that I don't have passion for this anymore. You said that I've gone Hollywood. Well, he talks about how he recovered from a shoulder injury in 5 months when he should have been out for longer. He talks about how AJ Styles only does this stuff because he has to. He only walks down the ramp because he has to, but he wants to. And he talks about how, and this was one of the things I like that he said, how people said that I went Hollywood, but other people that went but if you had gone Hollywood, you would have been already out of the company. But I am still in the WWE. And he says that you're right, I do need to beat you to prove that I belong, to prove that I still have what it takes to be a WWE superstar. And he says that he pretty much says that you've been out here running your mouth and you made a big mistake and you have guts, but you just made a very stupid move. And he says that I am going to shut you up and shut up all the people that hate on me. And then he signs the contract. And the match is official. It's going to be Cena versus Styles at the Royal Rumble. I'm really looking forward to this match, but I am a little bit scared because, as I talked about before, I'm afraid that John Cena is not going to put over AJ Styles. I get that he's put him over a couple of times in the past, but Cena should not beat AJ Styles. It kind of just deletes everything that you've done with AJ Styles since he's come up, so I really hope that doesn't happen. And then afterwards, Baron Corbin comes out and says that he's been the top star on SmackDown for the past few months. And he says that no matter which one of you walks in champion, I am officially announcing that I'm going to be the first SmackDown superstar to enter the Royal Rumble match, and I'm going to win the Royal Rumble match. And then Cena says, you know what, you came out here picking a fight. He ain't going to fight me, so why don't we fight? So then they start to have a face-off, but Styles ambushes Cena with an enziguri to the back of the head. And then Baron Corbin says, "Your time is up, John." And I thought this was a great segment. And this set up a matchup too next week between Baron Corbin and John Cena. So, you know, I can't wait to see that matchup. It's going to be John Cena's first match back since returning, so that's going to be good. So then Maurice is backstage, and she pretty much just slaps the dog shit out of Renee Young. I thought this was awesome. I really like the storyline they're doing with The Miz, Dean Ambrose, Renee Young, and everything. So I think that's good. And then we had Carmella with James Ellsworth versus Aaliyah from NXT. This match was nothing. I didn't care about it. Aaliyah is about to go off the top rope when James Ellsworth grabs her leg, and Carmella ends up beating her with the Code of Silence. I didn't care about it. And then we had Breezango versus American Alpha. American Alpha squashed him in like 30 seconds and beat him with Grand Amplitude. I thought that was kind of bad. I think Breezango, you have something here with this whole fashion gimmick, and you kind of just threw it away here. And then afterwards, the Wyatt family come on the screen, and Bray Wyatt says that you got lucky when you beat the Wyatt family, and people think that there's cracks in the Wyatt family, but you are further from the truth. And he said that you should enjoy your moment into the light. You haven't won the battle yet, because next week we're going to reclaim our SmackDown Tag Team Championships. And then Luke Harper goes to say run, but instead of Randy Orton cuts him off, it says run. So it kind of feels like the tease and tension between Luke Harper and Randy Orton. And I expect Randy Orton to turn on Bray Wyatt in the future and announce that it was all a ruse. But yeah, so next week we're gonna get American Alpha versus two members of the Wyatt family for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. And then next, Nikki Bella addresses Natalya, and I actually really enjoyed this segment. And Nikki Bella talks about how you've been trashing me, I'm trashing my looks, when you know that me and Brie Bella have worked hard to get to the WWE, and we worked hard to get what we got. And Natalya says, yeah, but you've only got what you got because of your looks, and because of who you're dating and everything. And then Nikki Bella says, well, you've been living off your name of the Hart family. You always talk about the Hart family. In fact, when your music hit, people think that it's Bret the Hitman Hart coming out. And then Natalya then talks about how Nikki Bella uses her looks, and how she sent out a tweet with Nikki Bella taking a picture with Bret Hart, and how she probably had to do something. She did something like she pretty much bribed Bret Hart to take that picture and say that she was like this great wrestler and everything. And Natalya says that you have no looks, and once you lose your looks, John Cena's gonna leave you, and you're gonna die alone. And then Nikki Bella knocks her out with a forearm, and then that was it. And this is setting up a matchup next week between Nikki Bella and Natalya, which I can't wait to see. Then next we have Dean Ambrose gets interviewed, and the interviewer that was interviewing him kept messing up her words. And Ambrose pretty much says that he's going to destroy The Miz and take the one thing that's the most important from him, and that's the Intercontinental Championship. And then we had Jack Gallagher backstage pretty much hyping up 205 Live. I really didn't pay attention to it. And then we had the main event. It was a Intercontinental Championship match. Intercontinental Champion The Miz with Maurice ringside versus Dean Ambrose. And overall, this was a good, solid Intercontinental Championship match. Dean Ambrose really dominated this match in the beginning, beat the crap out of The Miz, and he ended up dropping The Miz on the Timekeeper's area, and ended up running across the ring and hitting a clothesline on him, which I thought was pretty cool. And then The Miz started dominating the matchup, worked over the leg of Dean Ambrose, but then Dean Ambrose made a comeback, hit an elbow off the top rope on the outside on Miz. And eventually, Ambrose went to go off the top rope, but he was distracted by Maurice. And when he went off the top, Miz caught him into a skull-crushing finale. Miz didn't get the victory. And then eventually, Dean Ambrose goes for a tope suicide. No, he ends up hitting a tope suicida on Miz. And then Renee Young comes over and slaps him right in the face. And the referee is about to call it for a disqualification since Maurice put his hands on Ambrose. But then Ambrose says, don't call it off. Just ban her from ringside. And the referee bans Maurice from ringside. And then afterwards, Miz, while the referee is distracted by Maurice being upset about it, Miz hits Ambrose on the back of the head with the championship and tries to cover him, but Ambrose kicks out. And then Miz goes for the skull crusher finale. Ambrose counters into the dirty deeds, covers him, gets the victory, and becomes the brand new Intercontinental Champion. And now a two-time Intercontinental Champion. And I guess it was fine for like a surprise pick, but I don't really get why they kind of put the Intercontinental Championship on the Dean Ambrose. I kind of wanted to see The Miz still keep his Intercontinental Championship just because of the fact that I think The Miz is the perfect person to go into WrestleMania with that title. And I think he's the perfect person to have that Intercontinental Championship. I think he just represents that title really well. I think he's been doing great things with the Intercontinental Championship, so I kind of don't get why he wrestled. I don't get why he lost it, but, you know, I was happy to see Ambrose win the belt, but I just kind of wish Miz had kept it. And then we have Talking Smack. We had the panel of Renee Young and Daniel Bryan, and she does talk about getting slapped in the face by Maurice. And Daniel Bryan says they're going to fine Maurice $5,000. And then Baron Corbin gets interviewed, and he talks about how he's going to win the Royal Rumble match and how he's the greatest superstar on SmackDown and how he's the main reason why SmackDown beat Raw in the ratings last week, because when he was in the main event, SmackDown beat Raw in the ratings. And he talks about how he's going to destroy John Cena. So I thought he did good on the panel. And then Daniel Bryan even talks about, you know, how he feels for the superstars that, you know, when the part-timers take the spots because they work hard to keep the shows entertaining. So then, and he talks about, but now he looks at it from a general manager standpoint, and says that, you know, he likes, he looks at it, you know, and says what we want to get the best matchups possible. So that's why he booked the matchup. And then James Ellsworth and Carmella get interviewed, and pretty much they try to ask them questions about the relationship. It didn't really go anywhere. And then The Miz gets interviewed, and he pretty much talks about how this is bull crap, and Renee Young and The Miz starts bickering at each other, and he talks about how everybody at the WWE is against him, and he starts swearing and everything. He just goes ballistic, and then that was the end of SmackDown. And overall, I thought SmackDown was actually a pretty good show. There was things I liked about it. There was things I actually didn't like. I don't think this has been the strongest SmackDown they've had. I think this has been one of the weakest ones they've had for the past 4 weeks. But I like the opening promo segment. I like the Corbin-Ziggler match, and Dolph Ziggler finally turning heel I liked. I liked the WWE Championship contract signing. I liked... what else did I like? I liked the Natalya and Nikki Bella segment, and I liked the Intercontinental Championship match on the show. So overall, a good SmackDown. So yeah, thought it was a good SmackDown. If I had to rate it, I'd rate it a 7 out of 10. So now comes the overbearing question: what was the better show this week? We have it's either Raw or SmackDown. That's actually kind of a tough thing to say, just because of the fact that I thought both shows had stuff I liked about it, and I thought it had stuff I hated about it. So it's really tough, because I thought SmackDown didn't really deliver as it has before. It's really tough to say. Because you have, like, Raw. I'm going to kind of relook Raw. You have Mick Foley's promo with Jericho. I thought the opening promo of Raw was good. I thought the match between Rollins and Owens was good. Just didn't really care for the finish. I thought the Cesaro-Carl Anderson match delivered. I really didn't like the Braun Strowman match just because of Sami Zayn getting buried. I thought Titus O'Neil was great on the show. I didn't like the Cruiserweights really that much on the show this week. I liked Roman Reigns versus Jericho for the U.S. title, but it was not one of the best matchups they had, and it was kind of predictable, and we've seen it before. I didn't care for the 2-on-1 handicap match. The Bayley-Nia Jax match was whatever. And I liked the Kevin Owens show with Goldberg. I thought that ending segment really made the show. But then you have SmackDown, where I liked the I'm gonna look through it again. I liked the opening promo. I liked the Baron Corbin Dolph Ziggler match, and Dolph Ziggler turning heel and the brawl he had backstage with Apollo Crews. But I didn't like the stuff they did with Carmella and James Ellsworth, and the Carmella's match with Alita. But I like the WWE Championship contract signing, and the Maurice slapping the dog shit out of Renee Young. I didn't like the squash match with American Alpha and Breezango. However, I did like the promo segment with the Wyatt family. I liked the segment with Nikki Bella and Natalya, and I liked the interview segment with Dean Ambrose. I'm not really going to count the Jack Gallagher because that's kind of not really part of the show. I liked Talking Smack. I thought that was good, and I liked the main event. So now that I kind of look at it, I thought SmackDown was the better show this week. I think they had more stuff to enjoy out of it. You had a new champion crown. You had a great WWE Championship contract signing. You had they were setting up other stuff for SmackDown the next week, and you had Dolph Ziggler finally turn heel. So I thought SmackDown was the better show this week. So this is now the 5th week in a row that SmackDown's been better, I think. But I'm not gonna really knock Raw this week. I thought Raw was okay. I definitely thought that, but I feel like if it wasn't for that main event segment, it probably would have just been an average show. It probably wouldn't have even delivered as well as it should have. But Raw did have some good stuff on it. But SmackDown was just the better show this week. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and make sure you guys check out my other YouTube channels, my Wrestling Fortune 44 channel, and my Owen the Talkinator channel, because I going to be uploading a lot of content on there. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'll talk to you guys later.